Am I enough? This question has flooded my mind throughout my years of growing up. Am I skinny enough? Am I pretty enough? Am I creative enough? But the question of my worth has shifted as of January 22nd, 2019. Instead of questioning my looks and my creativity, I have started questioning something else.
Am I disabled enough?
Not feeling like we're disabled enough.
Am I disabled enough?
Do I count, Jessica? Do I count? Am I allowed to call myself disabled?
You tell me. I have POTS.
Postural
orthostatic
tachycardia syndrome.
But what does all of that mean? Well, let's break it down word for word. Postural, relating to posture, meaning the position or bearing of the body, whether characteristic or assumed for a special purpose. Orthostatic, meaning of, relating to, or caused by an upright posture. Tachycardia, meaning relatively rapid heart action. And lastly, syndrome, which is defined as a group of signs and symptoms that occur together and characterize a particular abnormality or condition. So basically, when I sit up or try to stand, my body doesn't function properly. Unlike you, my blood vessels don't constrict, so gravity does its job and I collapse. I experience a multitude of symptoms every day, but they're invisible. When you look at me, you can't see my disability, and I'm not the only one. America's population is roughly 327 million people. About 10% of Americans have a medical condition which could be considered an invisible disability. That means 32.7 million Americans look just like you and me, but some of us have disabilities that aren't visible. It's estimated that between 1 and 3 million Americans are affected by my condition, POTS, and the estimated prevalence of POTS worldwide is at least 170 per 100,000 people. Because I don't look the way people recognize as disabled, they decide that they know my body more than I know my own, but they don't. A few weeks ago, I was riding the public transit, just trying to make it home from class. When I walked onto the bus, there were many disabled seats open, so of course, I sat in one of them. I was extremely symptomatic that day and was fighting my body's urge to pass out. Walking for too long, even to make it to the back of the bus, can be extremely difficult when I'm experiencing symptoms. I knew I belonged in that seat, especially in that moment when I was feeling ill. But because I don't look disabled, the people around me didn't agree. I got glares from a couple people, but for me, that's a normal occurrence. I made sure the disability sticker on my backpack was visible for all to see in hopes that the strangers around me would understand. But the moment I got up to get off at my stop, one woman from the back of the bus shouted, "Faker," assuming I was faking my disability. You don't know what it feels like to actively fight gravity in your own body to make it up a flight of stairs. You don't know what it feels like to lose your friends because you're bound to your bed, sleeping for hours on end because it's easier to sleep than to stay awake. You don't know what it feels like to consider your doctor family because you see them once every 2 weeks. You don't know what it feels like to constantly feel as if you're drunk, so dizzy that the world is spinning around you. You don't know what it feels like to have all the blood in your body rush to your legs every time you stand up. You don't know what it feels like to faint in front of the people you love the most and how humiliating that is. You don't know what it feels like to constantly live in fear that you're going to pass out, counting every step you take to ensure you don't overwork yourself. You don't know, and you don't know me. You have no right to assume that I am a faker and humiliate me. You have no right to decide if I am disabled enough. You have no right to judge every person who crosses your path and expose them for what you believe is true. Because you're wrong. We exist. Invisible disabilities are real and valid. You don't know what it's like to have everyone judge you when you sit in the handicap seat because you don't look disabled enough. But I am. I am enough. But I'm not here to shun the people like the lady on the bus. I'm here to educate anyone who hears my story and to bring awareness to the hundreds of invisible disabilities that exist. POTS, chronic fatigue syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, endometriosis, fibromyalgia, lupus, Lyme disease, migraines, and more. The list goes on and on. We are valid. You are valid. You are enough. So, if you're like me, sit in the disabled seat if you need to, and take care of yourself. And if you're not like me, the next time you see someone who doesn't look disabled enough to you, take a step back and remember the millions of Americans who look just like you and me. Don't forget about invisible disabilities. Don't invalidate us. Help us bring awareness and erase the stigma of invisible illnesses, because we are enough.